I want a lighter Quest, and I even want more than one of them in this house.
I'm curious of the fact that if they come out with a new Quest and it's just a slight iterative version where they only do like 10 or 20% to make it better, should they just wait until they can put out an 80% better headset?
There's two or three routes that I think are most likely for Facebook to do. They do a very quick sort of swap out the Quest, swap out, take these off the shelves, and put the new one out there. Or they just keep this on the market for a while longer and add the new one at the higher end. They could also potentially drop the price of the current Quest and also put the new one at the higher end. And I don't think it's going to dilute the market or confuse anything. They're going to be very clear about it. I think they'll probably follow the Apple model where they sometimes just retire certain sizes of the older model so that the newer model begins with the minimum size of. So, like, one of the ways to do it is there's only one version of this Quest on the market anymore. Maybe you can't go get the 128. And if you go for a Quest S or whatever the next version is, you can get it at 64 128 again, but you're no longer having to be confused between, oh wait, do I get the older Quest in 128 or the newer Quest in 64? I would hate that. That would be frustrating to me, is to have to make that choice. So I hope they simplify at least that kind of choice.
It reminds me of back in like 2013 to 2015, when everyone was talking about the kind of life that these headsets would enjoy. And back then, like, Oculus executives and whatnot would say, expect these headsets to live somewhere between like a mobile phone and a console, right? Like, it would be not the 7-year cycle that a PS4 would have.
Sony is also ramping up its PS5 manufacturing. I guess it puts everything that we said in the same boat of, well, this doesn't mean any specific date. It doesn't mean any specific anything. It just means they're working on it.
This is a bit different in that there were reports earlier in the year that originally Sony was planning to only ship around 5 to 6 million of PS5 this year. Maybe because of COVID, also because of the potential expense of the device. Everyone's thinking it's going to be a very premium console. Now there's a Bloomberg report and another report saying it could be between 9 to 10 million now instead, and they've upped those targets. People are saying it's still on for holiday, and they still only anticipate selling like 5 to 6 million this holiday season, like rolling into next year. But then they've got another bulk to go in the next wave, so there's no kind of stock shortages or whatnot.
I love this discussion. I love that you brought it up because it's the other part of the equation regarding what they do with the Quest. They just went through a very tough time of not being able to supply enough Quests. Does it really make sense to end the Quest anytime soon if you have such a ravenous audience that's willing to buy them up? And are you rolling out different factories to make each line, or are they both rolling off the same production lines, just in different production lines in the same building? Rift 2016 still has such high usage numbers on Steam, even 4 years later. That's pretty remarkable to me, and it's something worth noting when you think about how long these headsets might be in market. Quest can obviously become a PSVR headset. Yeah, you can still use it as a PC headset years from now.
Well, I was just going to say it's like cars. There's still that person who's driving around that 1987 Toyota Tercel, and they bought it new, and it's still running and doing exactly what it needs to do, which is get somebody from A to B and back. The fact that the OG, the Rift, is still a player is indicative of the fact that there were so many people who just wanted a headset. They got the best they could, and now they'll sit back and wait a little while because they're in VR, so they don't need to break through that barrier. They'll sit back and drive their Tercel until it falls apart.
There's a fair number of people who have gone from Rifts to Quests just because they hate the setup that they have to do for the cameras all the time.
And I would make the argument that there's just as many people who can't afford to do that, so they just suffer and deal with it.
I saw a developer introduction to a trailer that's going live on Monday on the website. I can't say what it is, but the developer did a little thing, and then he put his headset on, and it was a CV1. I was like, really? Still? Wow.
Sure,
okay.
Why not?
The other thing I wanted to say to this point was, it's actually a very interesting time for all of this stuff, because the console landscape was this set in stone thing for such a long time of 5 to 6 year life cycles. And then obviously, I think Microsoft and Sony really disrupted that in this generation with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. And I think you're seeing that again now as we lead into this generation again. Microsoft's messaging has been very pro-consumer in you actually don't need to upgrade to the Xbox Series X straight away. You can actually play the next Halo, the next Hellblade, the next Gears of War and whatnot. You'll still be able to play those on the console that you bought 7 years ago for some time. You don't need to go out and buy this thing straight away. And I do think, it's just quite an interesting revolutionary time for these product life cycles that have been so set in stone for so long. And yeah, VR is really going to ride that wave in many ways, I think, and find its groove in the next couple of years, especially with the Quest. Now that we have that kind of starting point.
I want to put a prediction out there on price. Do you guys have any guesses on price? What do you think the next Quest will cost?
$499.
I might be incredibly optimistic, but I'd like to think they drop the price of original Quest and find a new $399 price.
So I think what they'll do is maybe drop the existing Quest to $300 and keep it in an only 64 gigabyte model. Then do the new Quest, the Quest Plus, at $400 and $500 with 64, 128. Then what I'd like to see is maybe 6 months or a year down the line, just retire the old original Quest and bring everything down.
The conversation about price is also about leading the industry and the understanding of the audience, of the people at large, the consumers, to expect a wireless, all encompassing headset at a certain price, whether it's been subsidized or whatever. Facebook is trying to set that, because then they know that if somebody else comes in and wants to sell a standalone headset that offers everything the Quest does, they have to have it be at a lower price than they could probably afford to do right now.
And I think that's why Facebook was going to be even more aggressive than they are now, because we have every indication that they are taking a loss on every Quest sold, that it is a more expensive headset to produce than $400. There's got to be number crunchers over there at Facebook trying to figure, how far can we push our sort of reach by crushing the numbers down even further than they already are. And I think that's something that there's an assumption that when Apple enters the market, they're going to have an expensive product, because Facebook or Apple's model is make money, make profit on the hardware sold. And so if you get to 2022 or 2023 and Apple has come out with a very nice wide field of view VR AR headset, it's a VR headset that has like a really nice pass-through mode, let's say. Let's say it's priced at $700. Facebook will have already spent a decade working out partnerships with display providers to make sure that they don't lag whatever Apple produces in any specification. So you will be forced to go out there and have to decide, am I buying the Apple headset for $700 or this Facebook headset for $400 or $300? And then you look down the spec sheets and they both got the exact same specs. Like that's the setup Facebook's going for.
That's interesting, and it actually brings us into our second piece of news, which is there's a report now that Apple has taken their AR lenses into trial production. This is production before the production, just to see if they can actually produce them in quantity. What does this tell us? Like, other than the fact that they're just trying to build something?
Yeah, it's tough because these reports, most of the reports are coming out of either Bloomberg, Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg, or several reporters over at The Information. And The Information is a subscription program, so lots of people don't subscribe to things, so they don't necessarily read The Information. Bloomberg puts their stuff out pretty easily for people to get, and the reports differ a little bit in their descriptions, like how these reporters, we track things down. We do a lot of work, but when you talk to sources that are speaking anonymously about something they maybe saw in a demo, um, the person giving you the information may be trying to protect their sources. They may be trying to protect the time, the date, some of what they saw. They're trying, there's a management of information here that makes it really, really hard to be clear about exactly what somebody saw and the functionality of the headset. And when we're talking about VR and AR in particular, the headsets differ so significantly in how their display systems work. A VR headset has an opaque display that blocks out the outside world, and then use cameras to recreate that world in order to provide an AR experience in a VR headset. Whereas AR headsets obviously have semi-transparent or fully transparent glass or some kind of material that passes through the real world and then inserts objects onto that glass. And this specific report from that's sorted to the information specifically calls these semi-transparent lenses. And that would suggest that these lenses are in fact for an AR headset of some kind that could be down the line. The the reason I get into all that is because it's really unclear whether Apple may also be working on a VR headset that has the opaque display and does the AR in VR mode. And that could come potentially before these AR glasses get up and running to quality standards for a full AR glasses headset.
I wouldn't be surprised if they only came out with one SKU that was an AR headset that could also have, and I don't know if you guys remember the Cast AR Kickstarter project that it's now Tilt 5, same folks. They had, oh, I can't put my hand, oh well. They were going to have a cover that went over their eyes to block out and turn an AR headset into a VR headset. And I'm surprised that nobody else has jumped into that category of here's an AR headset, but if you put these covers over it, boom, it's bright enough that it's VR too. But I don't know if Apple would go that route.
But that's obviously the retro-reflective thing where you've got to have the material in order to get that visual to work. I don't know. Now I remember talking to Alex Kipman at Microsoft about HoloLens, and he was adamant that sometime down the line we will have headsets that do both, that, the lenses will shift opaque and you can go into a completely virtual world. It's so many years away in order to kind of have one display system that can really hit the best of both worlds. And, it would stink to have an AR glasses thing that you put on and you could turn opaque, but it's only half the field of view of every other VR headset on the market. Like, that would be a terrible VR experience, even if it was a decent AR experience. And so, like, it seems much smarter the route to go full VR, do the best that you possibly can to make it a really great pass-through AR experience. And when you have the battery consumption down enough and the field of view wide enough for an AR headset, then you switch to the transparent system. But even then, you get the things that you insert into the view are going to be washed out in very bright areas. It's difficult. There's so many. This is this chart from one of the Oculus Connects with Michael Abrash, who was formerly at Valve and then went to head Facebook's research division, points out how different kind of the approach can be. Full control of pixels versus the other one, which is socially acceptable. And it's like, there's so many commentators, who insist that Apple is only interested in the socially acceptable wear out in the real world avenue that's on the right side of this panel. But I'm not convinced that someone inside Apple hasn't convinced Tim Cook that there is a decent market for the first route for at least a couple of years until we get to the second route, AR, actually being feasible. I think this is the thing on the right is just so difficult. so many problems to solve.
I also think that there is an internal, well, I mean, it's Apple, so I'm sure this happens quite a bit, an internal struggle over the direction and I see Apple get on a journey a lot of times and then just whoosh, off to one side or another, and some people are in this camp and some people are in this camp, and it's a mentality that's actually encouraged at Apple, and I'm not really sure what that means for us as consumers, because I'm personally excited about an Apple branded AR headset. I know some of the technology, some of the companies that they've purchased. They purchased was it VRVana, and they had the best pass through that I had ever seen in any headset ever. Still to this day, the absolute best pass through. I was able to juggle wearing that headset, and that was in like 2016, 15 maybe. So I don't know.
Could you put that other chart back up with Abrash? I want to point out something in the comparison that I think is really valuable. The one that shows VR is the best mixed reality. I think is one of the key things to look at when you do these comparisons. And it's when I go back to what I was saying before about the reporting on these things, when a reporter is talking to a source about the headset that someone saw or the prototype, and they describe it as mixed reality, that can clearly refer to VR, AR, it could be anything on this range. But I'm so convinced that when people start talking about having seen like an Apple mixed reality headset, it's most likely going to be a VR thing first, and then with a great AR pass-through mode that is called mixed reality, and it's still a couple years away of doing the AR thing. Obviously,
yeah, who knows?
When is Apple just going to spend hundreds of millions on a big video game that I want to play in VR?
Next Tuesday.
Oh,
that's
that's
one of those things that like has constantly bugged me. It's like it's a joke that Apple doesn't care about gaming, but how can that be when gaming is such a big market? Like I don't understand why those two things.
They get
are
other
both
people
true.
to do it for them, right? Like it's like they're not. I mean, whenever they do a big gaming push, it's with like external partners at the end of the day. Like it's like Super Mario Run and what they did with Nintendo a couple of years back, like the way, and then when they latch onto successes like Pokemon Go or what they do now with the Apple Arcade, which is actually a really cool service, I think. But
Apple doesn't make entertainment devices. Apple makes tools. Apple is not GameStop. It's Harbor Freight.
And a streaming service.
Yeah. That is true, though. That's a good point, because they do have a streaming service, which is entertainment, but it's not hardware. It's a service. So, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
We're getting
but it's still Apple-funded content, but yeah.
We're getting kind of the Google Apple thing where like Google kills its services because like they're constantly chasing markets that can serve 6-7 billion people, and it's like, oh, this is not a big enough market for us, we're going to can it. And that's what Google does over and over again. And I think that's what when we're talking about a lot of this stuff, I think that's kind of the fear of Apple fans, is that Apple's kind of going to pursue that mistake, that innovator's dilemma of, well, we're actually going to hold off until we can ship the glasses that appeal to 7 billion people. Facebook's kind of proving, in my opinion, that that's a mistake, because there's a lot of people you can reach with VR in the meantime.
I thought Darth had an interesting point about going back to social acceptable hardware and Apple's assumption with that. They said it's an interesting thought. What's socially acceptable is always changing. Maybe our goal is to get something that just looks like normal glasses, but it may be a long while. Which, yeah, no, I agree with that, Darth. It's going to be like we were just saying with that picture with A-Rush. Long time. And we're all just going to be meeting every week in this room until then, saying, when's it going to get here?
Well, speaking of speculation about stuff in the works, here's the next piece of news. Valve has been working on a top secret project since 2018. Hardware teams working on what's next. What is next, guys? What's next?
So this kind of ties in a bit to. It's from the same source that we discussed last week, but we published the story after we talked about it last week. And this was the final chapter of the Half-Life Alyx Final Hours interactive app, in which some members of the development team touched upon what might be next for Valve to Jeff Keighley. And the text describes, yes, that there is a small team has been working on a top secret project since 2018, and the framing within that seems to suggest some sort of new software, some sort of new game, perhaps. And then there's wider comments and wider generalizations from the Valve team about what might be next for a game. Specifically, one quote says that most people at Valve, which is very, very broad, hope that they will make Half-Life 3 just for traditional consoles, which is what spurred last week's conversation about what if Half-Life 3 isn't VR. But in terms of the hardware team, they say hardware team is working on what's next, and it might not just be more VR. It might they've been looking into things like what's the right term for it? Not mind control, but controlling things with your mind. That's kind of mind control.
I like that term because that's literally like a lot of the reporting on brain-computer interfaces do make that mistake of not representing it right when it's you know you're controlling the computer versus the controller controlling you, and yeah, it's funny to hear that phrasing because it's definitely a big issue.
I mean, to be fair, Valve might be working on both.
Yeah. It's an interesting point because it feels like right now we are sort of at this crossroads with Valve on both the software and hardware front, right? That we know they are lending heavy support to the launch of the HP. Oh my God, these are all disturbing. Reverb G2 later this year. We know that's a heavily Valve integrated headset.
I don't remember that headset. Is that what is that? Is that it's not Vader, is it?
Wait, that's not Vader, is it? I mean, that would be a really good name for Vader, but it's not Vader, which was also a prototype headset that got canned because it was going to cost $5,000 apparently. So yeah, no, we're just at an interesting crossroads with Valve at the moment. We talked a bit about this last week. I hope this top secret project that we're talking about, I hope again that's another huge big VR game. Maybe this time set in a new IP. That's what I'd really love to see them do with their technology. But it could be entirely something else. It could be the start of Portal 3.
I mean, you're obviously talking about a game, but I hope that when the what's next reference, I hope the what's next reference is wireless. Yeah.
Very Borg, Dominique says, and I agree, it is very Borg.
Well, and we don't even know for sure if it's VR.
Yeah. It's tough to talk because I mean the thing about it is, you know, they just put out Alyx. Index was last year. It's going to be a long time before they want to do their next. Here's what's next. Press blowout, right? So it's going to be years of speculation. It's just a really frustrating thing with this company, but it's what you have to make do with.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just we got that quote out of Valve that they're still exploring wireless, and yes, they're working on big things. Clearly, brain-computer interfaces, Half-Life 3, whatever the secret project is. Those are all big. But the biggest thing that PSVR needs right now is better, easier to use wireless. And it's on my mind a lot this week because I've been playing with Steam Link quite a bit in my house, trying to deal with my sort of internet situation and having two kids that are becoming major gamers kind of almost overnight. I started playing Minecraft Dungeons with my youngest, and it's kind of like it almost flipped a switch for him in explaining the concepts of how to play games. And so like he's just eating up everything now. He's going into Pokemon and even playing Portal. And like before I even came in here, he's like, "Can you set a Portal for me?" And that's so exciting to hear. But like letting the kid take over the PC when I need to do work is not doable. And so I'm like, can I do Steam Link? Is there a way I can do Steam Link? And you know, he's now gaming on a tablet or on a phone, and I can still do maybe something on the PC. It does take over the PC usually. But like I'm trying to figure out these ways that like how do we play Minecraft in a house on Wi-Fi that doesn't have a robust connection to the internet for 4 people? It only has a robust connection for 1 person to the internet. Right now, I'm using up my house's entire bandwidth to talk to you in England and Seattle. The kids have to get on cellular in order to play Minecraft with a friend who lives on the other side of the city. And it's just, I've been playing with Steam Link, and it's amazing. Like, I was able to get 2 Steam Links working on one AC Wi-Fi connection, and the kids were playing Portal 2 co-op on 2 tablets on one Wi-Fi connection with no lag to the internet to get their movements back and forth. And I was playing Halo last night with my wife. Halo was a big game for us back in our college years, and being able to kind of do the same thing, and being able to do this LAN play while not having robust connection to the internet in a household with 4 gamers now. It's a big deal. It's important, and being able to have it wirelessly work from one computer in one room to another device in another room, like, maybe I'm in this really, really small minority of people that doesn't have a robust connection to the internet, but I think there's got to be a lot of people that want to play these kind of like party games in their own house and not have to like use one machine and sit in front of that one screen in order to play games. Like, it's really nice to be able to have every screen in your house be able to connect to all the best games that you have in your library. And I always think of that with VR. Like, why can't I use my VR headsets in sort of the same way? Why can't I just go into VR and enjoy my flat screen games, enjoy all my VR games, and no matter what room of the house I'm in? And yeah.
I feel your pain, Ian. I'm constantly having to, hey, if you guys are going to use the Quest, make sure you plug it in afterwards. So when I need to use it, it's plugged in. And actually, the connection thing, I really feel you there. Thank God the Taco Bell down the street, whose Wi-Fi I'm using currently, has upgraded to their now Wi-Fi 802.11g. So that's good. So we're at least
tastes delicious
into the
too.
21st century of Wi-Fi. That's good.
Oh my God!
Starlink. Here's Heaney making the pitch for Starlink. I've entered my address on their website so that I can get Starlink as soon as they make it available.
Starlink, Elon Musk thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
It's
okay.
Have you not seen the satellite trains going overhead? They're amazing.
I know he does many things. I just forget all the names.
That's why he needed all those bitcoins yesterday on Twitter.
That's what I was going to say. Damn
it. Yeah, crazy stuff.
I was going to make a great joke, but then Ian was like, "You don't know." It messed it up.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you.
I ruin all the jokes.
I'm just. Oh my God, Carl's gone. What was next on the news?
I don't remember.
Let me just think about a really interesting topic that came. I'm definitely not looking through the bridge of my headset right now to go to the headlines on uploadvr.com.
Carl, you're back. I got kicked out.
Online.
Weirdo Rama. Okay, so Superhot's new game doesn't have VR. Are we okay with this?
Oh, I was just about to say that. Here's the thing with this. Superhot, the original Superhot, is not a VR game. It's an entirely different game. Superhot VR is not a port of anything. It is an entirely different new. It is the second Superhot game. It is almost basically the sequel to Superhot. And in fact, in some of the marketing messaging I've seen around the new DLC, Control Alt Delete or whatever it's called, they say that is the 3rd game in the Superhot series. So there's been a lot of snarky takes on Twitter that are like, no VR, I'm not interested. It's like, well, it wouldn't work like that, because then you'd suddenly have to start moving with dual analog sticks, because that's how you do things in the flat screen Superhot games, and you'd be entirely ruining the experience. Would I love more Superhot in VR? Yes, I still think it's probably arguably the best VR game out there, but it's not this. I don't want them to just stick VR support on top of DLC for the game. It's not intrinsic to VR. It's not designed that way, and it would be a heck of a lot less special at the end of the day. So
And I think that's what they're searching for as developers, is that special
Yeah.
sort of thing. And I think it's a mistake. There's a lot of referring to the snarky comments. Like, I think that's the one that kind of bugs me, is seeing these people think, reading into this is like, they made the best VR game. What does this say about VR? Is VR dead again? Like, that would be the most extreme way of interpreting that, and that's a huge mistake to interpret it that way. And I think I've seen those comments on our own articles, seen it on Twitter, and I think it's a serious mistake to kind of like see this game come out for PCs and make the very big wrong conclusion that they're like done with VR, or that VR itself is dead because the makers of the best VR game didn't focus on VR. I think it's just simply these devs want to focus on cool.
I think that observation speaks volumes about what people would think if another Half-Life game came out and was not VR. You'd hear,
Yeah.
"Oh well, Valve's abandoning VR. It's over. Go home." And it's not true. It's too extreme of a reaction. Just because a company wants to take their IP and have multiple platforms available for it, I mean, I'm fine with that. I would expect developers to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, the other point to this story is, I mean, Ian reached out to the team, and they told us something they've kind of reiterated to us many times since the launch of Superhot in originally in 2016. It's that they're always looking at VR and trying out new things. They've always had different prototypes going on. They actually very publicly spoke once about how what they ended up with on Quest. Originally, they were going to build a whole new set of levels for Quest, and it just got to the point they were building stuff that was so infeasibly big for the average consumer that they just dialed it back to a port. And the other thing to point out as well is, Ian kind of touched on this earlier, the Superhot VR in the headset sold better than the original Superhot. So clearly it's not them looking at the economics or financials of it and saying, no, let's not do another VR game. It's a waste of time. It is a different thing for sure. But it might have cost more, as a little dicky bird just whispered in my ear.
to make. I think so. That's an interesting way of thinking of it. And the thing I wonder when we talk about Valve and Superhot devs sort of in the same class, I guess you'd call it, they're like that big of teams or that dedicated, is this idea that maybe teams have to ping pong between making a VR game and then a PC game, and then go back to a VR game, back to a PC game. Like, I'm wondering if that's going to be what we might see some of these studios do in order to kind of like keep up with both mediums, as well as focus their teams. You don't want half the team off in one room doing one thing and half the team in another room doing another thing. If those are the best people you can find and they do a great job, you kind of want them all working on the same thing.
Unless you are Valve. Valve
so maybe Half-Life 3 is on flat screen, but maybe the game after that isn't. That's my
that would be my
Half-Life
guess.
4 confirmed. Great.
Yeah. Half-Life Russell. Yep. That's my one.
All right. Good stuff. Well, should we move on to the hot topic for today? Because
what is the hot topic? I'm scared. Am I going to fight Kyle this week?
Oh yeah, are we fisticuffs?
That's actually that's the hot topic. Who'd win in a fight between you?
Yeah. So PlayStation VR 2. See, I can't even do a 2 now. PlayStation VR 2. Will it take PC VR's limelight? Will it be the thing that everybody wants to go to? Is PSVR 2 the PC VR killer? Is that how we want to phrase this?
I hadn't thought of it.
That's your editorial. Like, what? Can you recap your editorial? Sort of what you were getting at with that one.
So we were on the download maybe a month ago, and I started talking about how excited I was for PSVR 2. I think it's going to be a major, interesting point for the industry. Then this guy here starts doing, that thing he does where he sighs a bit, he kind of shakes his head, and he's like, no, no, no. So I ask him why he's so down on it, and essentially he says that Oculus Quest is basically the only headset that matters for the next 10 years. Which
Did I say that? I might have said that.
it's kind of, it was around that point, around there somewhere. And it just got me thinking about it a lot, because it's an interesting argument to have, because whenever you talk about what's going to sell more and change the industry and be the most important product line in the industry going forward, yeah, of course, it always comes back to Quest. But there are things that Quest is not going to be able to do for the next 10 years, probably not even, when you're talking about what the PS5 won't be able to put into PSVR2, maybe not even the next 20 years. And there's experience and expertise that Sony has in the field of software development that really, really gives it an edge, and is going to still make it a big part of the conversation for the next 5 years. And the PC point of this is something that I find myself going back to time and time again, which is that, VR didn't really launch in 2016, is the way I think of it these days. These headsets were too expensive. The ways we got into them were too expensive. And then, PSVR brought down price, brought down accessibility, but it came at the cost of the quality of the experience at the end of the day. And I love PSVR. I'm a huge, huge PSVR fan. But in 2020, it's, no longer acceptable, in my opinion, some of the limitations it puts forward. So I came at that editorial kind of from the perspective of, with the PS5, you kind of now have a PC, like something that is going to stand up to contemporary PCs. And it is the first console capable of doing VR on that level. And so I think PSVR2 is kind of going to carry that torch that those earlier headsets on PC started or lit 4 years ago now. And I believe it's going to play a major role in the next 5 to 10 years because of that.
I'm not allowed to sigh anymore, am I?
I just want to point out here, first of all, hi, Damien.
Hey, Damien.
He's like, this is the hot topic? Well, yeah, it is the hot topic, because it's a conversation where you're going to get a lot of people who have varying opinions on it. I mean,
it's going to be a fight.
Exactly. I mean, the idea that a console is just a specific PC is something that I've been hearing for years from people who are not console players. That I'll just PC Master Race kind of thing. Those people don't see the value in a non-upgradable computer that can only play things that we tell you you're allowed to play on it. So I think it is a valid conversation. So, yeah, Damien, feel free to throw us some hot topic ideas. My
I'm curious in our comments, sort of like what the ratio is of headset owners, like how many of them are PC VR owners, how many of them are PSVR owners, how many Quest people do we have watching us? Try off in the comments if sort of like you're in all of the above or one of those people, because it kind of, it really dictates that when people buy one of these headsets and not the others, they enter that camp and sort of think anything unrelated to that camp of news is not news and not interesting to them. And I don't know what camp Damien is in out there. I think that's interesting that you bring up it's a consoleized PC, like a system you can't do things with, and the VR headset is something you connect to that consoleized PC, and I'm constantly torn about this idea that like Quest has done a lot to sort of bridge the gap between standalone console VR and PC VR. It's a system that does both, and it's open enough that it actually does Steam too. And we get 2 years down the road, with that being the case for Quest, it starts complicating whether it makes sense to buy a VR headset that only accesses one ecosystem. I don't know.
But so a couple of the points to talk about here are, first of all, connecting to a PC and connecting to a console are two entirely different things. Like a couple of years after launch, PS5 will have a bigger install base than gaming PCs for sure. Like there's no doubt. There's like high grade gaming PCs. I think Nvidia said like 2 or 3 years ago there were like 17 million or maybe like 20 million or something like that.
There's 100 million Steam VR accounts though.
100 million Steam VR accounts.
Is that right? Or no, sorry, Steam accounts. Sorry, 100 million Steam accounts.
But that's like built up over decades and decades, and the barriers for what a gaming PC or the barometers for what a gaming PC is, especially one for this level of that matches a console's level of graphics, keeps changing, right? Because I have 2 or 3 old PCs that had Steam accounts on them.
Granted, there's probably 70 million of those Steam accounts that have a Half-Life only machine, like an original Half-Life. Yeah, no, I get that. It's just,
but I mean, either way, like this is just data that we can't really refute because it's just the way this goes. That PS4 passed 100 million units, PS3 neared it, PS2 did it easily, PS1 did it as well. I'm pretty sure it's just the way it's going to go. Like consoles are infinitely more accessible for gaming than PC. And for at least the next, 7 or 8 years, however long this console cycle lasts, this seems like it might be the last kind of traditional console cycle. That's going to remain a dominant thing. I truly, truly believe that. And the second thing to talk about there is getting back to what I said earlier on, is Sony's expertise with software and ecosystem. And the fact that Resident Evil 7 still the only place, arguably, I would still say, the most AAA VR title in some regards. Like, I know obviously Half-Life Alyx is this big thing, but I think even visually, like Resident Evil 7 looks even better than Half-Life Alyx in many regards. And you just look at that and you look at what they could do for the next generation, the potential that Resident Evil 8 for the next decade or whatever will be VR exclusive potentially on PSVR2, not that any of that's confirmed. Gran Turismo 7, the potential of, we talked last week about Rockstar. No one in the VR field is going to have better relationships with Rockstar than Sony to make those kinds of games happen. And I guess it speaks to the idea, this divergent idea of VR as an all-encompassing media device and VR as a gaming device, right? And Quest has launched as a console, and we're seeing it kind of transition into some other interesting areas with, I would say, actually like a surprising degree of success when you think about like what happened with the Tempest in the Under Presents last week and whatnot. But gaming is still going to play a huge role in this industry for the next 10 years easily. And I just see Sony leading that charge just because, they have control of the ecosystem. They have getting on nearly now for 3 decades worth of expertise in the field. And they will always be able to draw people in, as good as Quest is going to be in 2 or 3 years from now, there's going to be people look at it and say, okay, cool, I can still play, let's say Superhot. Let's say maybe they get like a port of that Medal of Honor game or something, if we're being really ambitious on Quest. Those look great. Those look like good, fun, kind of mobile level titles, but there's still something to be said for the absolute AAA high-end VR experience that PSVR2 will be able to deliver that Quest won't be able to.
Interesting. Okay.
That wasn't a hot topic. That was me just basically laying down the law.
No, absolutely. and for those of you who are watching right now, make sure you stay tuned for next week when the hot topic is going to be whether or not we should call it the hot topic, just based on the conversation.
Based on the fact I'm too good at it.
Is that how it is?
I won.
Well, I like that we had this discussion right before Dreams VR hit, because I think that's going to be that could change some minds. That could change my mind if I really can wrap my brain around sort of the value of that in VR.
Wait, that means I haven't changed your mind yet?
Well, the thing that'll change my mind about the PS5/PSVR2 being on par or even being a PCVR killer would be the amount of social that they offer. Because as it stands
Really?
right now, I cannot use PSVR to, well, I won't be able to, or at least I don't think I will. Let me know if it's false, that there will be social VR that I can do with the PSVR2
Rec
on
Room
par with what I
Rec
can do
Room
with
and No
PC
Man's Sky
VR.
are both cross-play completely, right?
Yeah, I think they are.
Yes. Yeah, my kids do a Rec Room on PlayStation and computer, and even Quest. So yeah.
To my point of like compatibility across systems, I just want to mention this, that like it still surprises me that PSVR is that high up on the Steam user rankings with so like unofficial fan made support for using PlayStation VR with a PC. Like that,
Yeah.
it still kind of shocks me that that exists at all. And if a PSVR2 has 360 tracking, wireless, inside out, if it has all those things, is it able to also connect to a PC? Can you do that?
Possibly. I mean, someone will get it to, if not Sony.
Oh yeah, I guarantee that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a big deal.
it'll definitely
then
happen.
you'll change my mind. If that
Well, because
that's
it connects to a PC. But that's the less popular thing. We established this.
The thing is, why would you want to? Why would you want to hook a PSVR to a
Up to a
PC?
PC. Yeah.
Right. Because
Half-Life
Sony's not going to
Alyx.
make
I
that
mean, like, if that's the
easy.
only thing
I
you've
mean,
got, I don't
there's
know.
a very, very, very good chance that Half-Life Alyx is on PSVR too.
Yeah, that's true. Of course.
Who knows?
Are you going to wait 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, you really don't have much choice. It's either wait 2 years right now or spend $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? There's this whole big thing that we could talk about is a console actually a PC, and the proprietary connections, and why bother, and should Sony just make a headset that connects to a PC? There's all sorts of crazy ways we could go with this, but we won't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we won't. Well, we're running out of time here, and I think this has been a good discussion, but let's wrap it up here. So, as usual, I want to encourage everybody to go to uploadvr.com for all the news, reviews, comments, and interviews that we have put out there for all y'all. And I think, Jamie, do you have some video stuff you want to tell us about?
Yeah, well, when you were in the abyss earlier in the podcast, I was saying just in general that we've got a heck of a lot of releases coming out next week. We're going to have video reviews for stuff like In Depth Unchained coming out on Oculus Quest next Thursday. Hopefully Into the Radius coming out next Monday. We're going to be working on some Dreams PSVR coverage, though I don't think anyone's getting early access to that, so it won't be later in the week. But whole host of stuff. Look out for more graphics comparisons. You guys seem to be really digging those. So we're going to be doing some of those on Paper Beast. Another one on In Depth again, probably because that's on Quest. Yeah, more VR recap news. But make sure to watch those videos. We're giving you nice, tasty, bite-sized chunks of news now over on our YouTube channel, and you guys again seem to be responding really well to that. So, for sure, make sure to like, subscribe, hit those buttons below. Let me get my finger so I can point below. Go below and do all the stuff that you need to do. And thanks so much for watching, as always. It means a lot.
Yes. Thanks to everybody in the audience, and the commenters, and wherever you're consuming this. Thank you very much. Goodbye. We'll see you all in the future.